the first quiz is not until we get through chapter 4, which will probably be the end of next week.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes,
We're
sir.
going to go on with chapter 1, and just to recap, chapter 1 tells us what nutrition is, the study of nutrients. It tells us why people eat what they eat, and it's told us so far that people today aren't necessarily eating the right foods. We kind of knew that already. And one of our biggest epidemics in the U.S. right now is obesity. Okay, so we're moving on. We're talking about what the characteristics of a nutritious diet are. You have 4 words here, and adequate means you just meet the standards. You just barely meet the standards. A balanced, moderate, and varied diet are what make a nutritious diet. All right, we're going to talk about different kinds of foods, starting with whole foods. Okay? Whole food is food that has not been processed to a certain point. For example, if I go to the grocery store and I go to the meat department and I buy a whole chicken, that's a whole food. But if I go over to the deli and buy a cooked whole chicken, that's a processed food. Okay? If I go to the produce section and I buy a bunch of broccoli, that's a whole food. Even though it's been trimmed off the bush and whatever, and the chicken has been cleaned and flushed and everything, it's still considered a whole food. You understand?
Yes,
but if
ma'am.
I go to the freezer section and buy broccoli with cheese sauce, now it's a processed food. If I go to the dry goods section and buy a bag of white rice, that's a whole food. But if I go further down the aisle and buy the Lipton rice or rice-a-roni thing, that's a processed food. So do you guys understand the difference between a whole food and a processed food?
Yes, sir.
Okay? Sorry? Rice-a-roni? Oh. Okay, so that's the difference. All right, here they show you, what bothers me that that's the example they gave, because this is obviously processed food. I'd rather see that same wild rice in a rice-a-roni box with chicken flavor. You know?
Yeah.
Then it's a good comparison. But there's your whole food versus processed food. Okay, now we're going to talk about fortification and enrichment. To fortify something is to add a nutrient to a food that never existed in that food. For example, milk doesn't naturally contain vitamin D, it's fortified in. Salt does not naturally contain iodine, it's fortified in. Do you understand what fortification is?
Yes.
Okay.
Nutritious food.
Now, should I explain fornication? Do we got, so you know the difference?
We got that down.
Y'all know that? You got that one down? All right. Okay. So we're all good.
We're all good.
You're all good. All right. Enrichment. Similar, but there's a difference. Enrichment is adding nutrients to a product that the product actually did have at one time, but it was lost when they refined it, like bread. Wheat naturally contains some of your B vitamins, but when they process the wheat for white bread, those vitamins are lost in the washing and milling, so they add them back. That's an enrichment. Do you understand? Okay, so everyone gets fortification and enrichment. Okay. All right, then we've got the term natural. Okay? I just checked recently my last nutrition. Remember I told you nutrition is the youngest science. Constantly changing. My last class 6 weeks ago, the word natural didn't mean anything. Now it does. The USDA put guidelines down on the word natural. Before it was a recommendation. The USDA recommended that if you use the term natural on your food, that you therefore have food with no added colors, artificial flavor, or synthetic ingredients. Now that's law. Okay? Did y'all get that? So natural means no added colors, no artificial flavors, or synthetic ingredients. Synthetic ingredients, you guys know you eat food all the time to have something or have inedible, ingredients, thank you, in it. You'll eat plastic and things like that. You'll eat petroleum. You eat petroleum all the time, by the way. You eat it all the time. It's in all your produce. Okay? Because that's in the spread. Petroleum. So you're eating like Vaseline every day. Isn't that nice? Woo, that's good. You're eating plastic.
Wow.
That's in your food. But if it's termed natural, it doesn't have that. And it doesn't have artificial colors and flavors. Artificial colors and flavors aren't necessarily edible either. Yeah, I mean, it could be something totally, I don't even know what. Could be styrofoam for all I know.
A related story, I was reading on Yahoo, link I had, in England, they were now banning food colors.
Food colors?
Certain ones, certain blues and yellows, because it's synthetic and it's been linked to hyperactivity and.
Are you sure they're just now banning it? Because they, as far as I know, they haven't had it for quite a while.
This is, last year.
They may have increased the amount.
They might have.
We're one of the last, we're one of the few countries that still do
Yeah,
this.
that's when you went to, kids being, having anger problems and stuff.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about it in a minute. All right. So, natural, this is natural on usually your processed foods. That's that term. If you see that word, that's what it means. If the word natural is on meat or any kind of meat or poultry, then it cannot contain artificial ingredients, added colors, and are minimally processed. Notice that it can still contain antibiotics and hormones. Okay? They're still in there. Personally, I don't really care for the word natural. I don't like it. I'd rather either do the way it is or organic, because there's not enough guidelines on this. Like, for example, instead of buying the chicken noodle soup, you're buying the chicken with no artificial ingredients or added colors. Or you see what I'm saying? It's more of a whole food than a processed food. That's what it means, minimally processed. But quite honestly, and that's why I don't like, and a lot of people, a lot of grocery stores now have lines that are natural. For example, Publix has Green Wise, Kroger has Simple Truth. I don't think Walmart has them. No. But so the Green Wise and the Simple Truth, a lot of people think that means organic. Not necessarily. It could be just natural. You got to read the label to see if it's organic or if it's just natural. Okay, because there's a difference. All right, organic. To me, that is not a good enough description of what organic is, so I'm going to write it down. Can you see this marker? Is it dark enough?
Yeah.
Is that better? Can y'all see this one?
The black one over here. Probably works. Antibiotics.
There we go.
I'm back in time. I think it's all right.
I put phone that job, man, I won't work.
Don't worry, honey, you're not interrupting class.
I'm quiet, I thought. Everybody's gotta give you a hard time.
All right. So if a product, let me see if I have the seal. There it is. If a product has this seal right here and nothing else, it's got to have this seal. It cannot say organic and not have this seal. If you see something labeled organic and it doesn't have this seal, it more than likely came from another country. Okay? You want to see USDA organic. Yeah.
Because it comes from another country, and they don't do some things that we do to our food. Would you say they're still better than using the processed crap that we
Yep.
put on the shelf?
Yep. And I'll talk about that in a minute. All right, so to get this seal, the product cannot have antibiotics, hormones, chemical pesticides, or fertilizers. It cannot have artificial flavors or colors. We all good with those things. You all know what those things are, right?
Yes.
No, any questions about what those are? No. Okay. It cannot be genetically modified. Now, do we all know what a GMO is? Let me explain GMOs real quick. You need to know this. Food has been genetically modified since there's been man, since there's been food. It has always been genetically modified, okay? Because of bees and pollen, you understand?
Yes.
GMOs can be a natural thing that man had no say in, all right? However, what we mean by this is where man had a say in it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what they mean by a GMO is when they alter the food to no longer be what it's always been. GMOs, that became a big thing when they started doing things like adding pig hormones to tomatoes, okay? And fish hormones to produce, okay? When they started doing that, then everybody's like, what? And that's when they put the GMO into the organic criteria.
Would it be labeled?
What's the,
No, they don't label that stuff.
so what's the purpose of putting
If you want to avoid any of these things that you hear happen to your food, you only have one way to go.
Grow your own.
organic?
Or grow it yourself?
Or grow it yourself.
Every seed, don't you?
That's right. Make it yourself. That's the only way.
If you grow it yourself, you have to use non-GMO seeds.
I'm sorry?
You have to use seeds from non-GMO plants.
Right.
Because everyone's made up.
Yeah, you have to buy organic seeds.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do.
First, I think GMO should be banned.
Huh?
I think GMO should be banned.
Well, when people see, some people who know what GMOs are won't jump on board with us when we say things like that, because they'll tell you, well, we've had GMOs since food has existed, and that's true. We have.
But not this new stuff.
But now they're getting a little,
Crazy.
now it's like Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, right.
And they even call it that. They call it Frankenfood. That's what they call it. Right. Right. Exactly. All right, so that's what a GMO is. Yeah. Wait, 1 second, baby, I can't hear you.
I said Brad's gonna bring some more markers.
What?
Brad's gonna bring some more markers.
Oh, is it? Well, yeah. Good for you. Squeaky wheel, man, squeaky wheel. All right. Now, high fructose corn syrup. A lot of people don't realize this. You can't have high fructose corn syrup in organic food. Anyone want to guess why?
Monsanto.
Huh?
One thing GMO.
Because it's a GMO. Because all corn, 96% of all corn in the world is genetically modified.
Yes.
So, if you have high fructose corn syrup, then you don't follow this rule. Okay? And finally, irradiation. Y'all know what irradiation is? This is fun.
Irradiation.
Yeah, you're nuking it, yeah. Irradiation, by the way, all animal foods are irradiated. All your animal foods are irradiated.
Yes, they are.
And more of your produce is becoming irradiated. Now, let me explain what irradiation is. Irradiation is when they first wash the food in a bath of ammonia. You know ammonia, that stuff that if you drink you die? Yeah. They wash it in that. That's where that pink slime came from. Everybody heard about pink slime? Yeah, that's the ammonia left on the meat.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
All right, they wash it in a bath of ammonia, and then they put it in something that looks like a microwave, where they treat it with radiation, the same stuff you get when you have cancer,
What's the purpose of doing that? I'm just confused.
to kill anything on there. Anything. It kills everything on there.
Including you.
Any virus, any bacteria, anything.
Wow.
It kills it. Okay, there's poop all over your meat, by the way. It's all over there. They don't get it all off. Even the ammonia doesn't get it all off. Okay? But it's clean poop because they irradiated it. It's sterile. It's not going to hurt you. It's sterile. Sterile poop. Woo! All right. Oh, as long as they've hurt me, I'm okay. I'll eat it.
Wow.
All right? But that's
Thank you.
what irradiation is. Now you know that when you got cancer and you get radiation, it's going to kill the cancer, but it's also going to kill everything else in your body, right? That's why you get so sick. Okay?
Wow.
And that's what's going on with the meat. All right, now that's what they do with the meat. The reason why some of your produce is getting irradiated is the reason why your meat got irradiated and all your animal products is because these animals are living in their own waste. Waste is disease. We poop out for a reason, to get the toxins out of our body. Same thing as the animals. When they're walking around in it and slushing around and playing in it and it's all over them, it gets on your food. It gets on your meat. Okay? That's why they irradiate it. That's where E. coli came from. If any of you are old enough to remember the late 70s, early 80s, we never even heard of E. coli.
No.
What the heck is that? What? Where did it come from? That's disgusting.
Yeah.
We thought it was from food handlers who didn't wash their hands after they went and took a dump.
Yeah, that's what they said.
So that when we first heard of this, that's what we thought.
Yeah.
We thought, oh, those nasty cooks. We didn't know that it was the animals living in their own waste. And that waste was getting on the food. The reason why we had never heard of it is because our animals weren't confined back then. They were out on pasture. We didn't have feedlots.
Right.
They were out on pasture. So they'd poop here and walk away and be done with it. You know? Well, now they're living in it. It is. So now we're irradiating it and all this, and that's what's going on. Now, here's the thing. That poop in the feedlot, a lot of people want to know, well, can't we use it as fertilizer? No. And I'll tell you why you can't use it as fertilizer. These animals, and I'm not just talking the cows. That's the biggest one. There's the pigs, the chickens. They're all being treated the same way. Okay, thank you, baby girl. All right, so what's going on is these animals are being fed food that they wouldn't eat in nature. Okay, y'all know what they're being fed?
Corn.
Corn.
Chicken.
That is like feeding us rocks. they cannot digest corn. They were not intended to eat corn. So of course that's going to create horrible amounts of gas, bloating, and diarrhea. That's one of many reasons why they get antibiotics, to keep them from dying by eating this diet. The reason why they're fed corn, by the way, I hope you know, is because corn's cheap, subsidized by the government. Huh?
It's genetically modified.
Yes, it's genetically modified corn.
Oh
my God.
Start for life.
And it's subsidized by the government, so it's cheap. And it fattens them up quick, so they can get them to slaughter weight faster, so they can keep pumping out meat. That's why back in the day, there was no such thing as a dollar value meal.
Nope.
Because beef costs a whole, and chicken, and it all costs a lot more money than it costs now.
Yeah.
Now it's super cheap, because we get them to slaughter weight a lot faster, in, out, boom, boom, constant supply of meat. Now you can get 2 for 1.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, plenty of meat.
Yeah.
This all sounds like a beautiful thing. The only problem is, let's go back to our very first thing with nutrition. What's the biggest health epidemic in the world, or the country? All this cheap meat, this is what's happening. Right. Right. Yeah, you can send that animal to slaughter weight a lot faster. You pay cheap price. Well, that animal got fat fast, and so did you. All right. So anyway.